So I recently finished that brand new Marvel Spider-Man 2 game. I wouldn't even consider it brand new at this point because it's been how many months since the game released? I don't know. It's been quite a few. But I never had a chance to play it because I didn't have a PS5. But now I have one and I've played it and it's wonderful. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with this game. And because I've been playing this game, YouTube has been recommending a lot of Spider-Man 2 videos to me, and I've been eating them up. I'm obviously on a bit of a Spider-Man high right now, so I just love consuming the content. And I've seen a lot of reviews for this game, some positive, some negative, but I've watched all of them because right now I just want to consume Spider-Man content. And I also want to hear people out, I want to know what they have to say about the game. And whenever I watch these reviews, it usually is like, okay, so you like the game for X reasonings, or you dislike the game for X reasonings. Makes sense, makes sense. I can respect that. And it was all fine and dandy until I came across a man by the name of Griffin Gaming. So I saw his video pop up on my homepage, and I looked at the title and thumbnail, and I was like, wow, this dude does not like this game at all. And I was consuming Spider-Man content, I wanted to see what he had to say, whether positive or negative. I wanted to hear him out, see what his reasonings were. And I watched this video, and this is one of the strangest, funniest videos I've seen in my entire life. So he starts the video off by talking about the traversal, and this is like one of the few positive things he has to say about the game. He likes the traversal, which, you know what, I'll give him that. The traversal is super fun and super fluid, and it works extremely well, especially for a Spider-Man game. But he has one negative thing to say about it, and it's the weirdest complaint ever. It's super strange. So he brings up the fact that when you're on a mission, a main mission or side mission, mostly main missions, and you start to swing away from the objective, a text box pops up saying, hey, you're leaving the mission. Do you want to leave or continue doing the mission? And this bothered him so much, and I don't know how. And to me, this is normal. I don't see why he has such a big issue with this. If you traverse through the map to get to the mission and start the mission, then why would you want to leave the mission? You would only do that if you wanted to do the mission. And if you really want to leave the mission, then you can just do that. All you have to do is press start and press abandon mission. The only time where that wouldn't work is during a dialogue, it's not that big of a deal. It's like 30 seconds to calm down. And the worst part is, my point can't even stand on its own 2 feet within the context of his video. Because in his video, the clip he uses is one of the few moments where you're not allowed to abandon the mission. Throughout the whole game, you can leave and abandon the mission whenever you want, except for the clip that he used. So wonderful. You got the exception, not the rule. Now let's get into his complaints about the combat, and he has a lot to say about the combat. He fucking hates the combat in this game so much. It's ridiculous. It's so funny. He dislikes the combat because he compares it to the Arkham games, saying that it makes sense that Batman has to repeatedly hit an enemy to knock them out. Whereas with Spider-Man, it shouldn't be that way because Spider-Man has the ability to knock dudes out in like one hit. Which is true, but so does Batman. I don't know why you think Batman can't. He calls him a regular dude in his video when he's not. Batman is the strongest that a human can physically be. And if you look at some of the strongest people in the real world, like martial artists, they can definitely knock someone out in one hit, especially like a common street thug. So I don't even know what you're saying here. And he also says that the enemies are way too spongy and take way too many hits. And he says that it shouldn't take 3 to 4 hit combos to take out an enemy. This man can't hit an enemy 3 to 4 times without getting tired of the combat. He can't do 1, 2, 3, 4. Which is around the speed that Spider-Man attacks. He can't even do that. And look, should Spider-Man be able to take out enemies much quicker? Probably yes, but it's a video game, and if the combat was realistic, then it would get so fucking repetitive, and that does not sound fun at all. Taking out enemies in one hit throughout the whole fucking game, at that point, combat just sounds like a minor inconvenience. It doesn't even sound like fun gameplay anymore. Taking out enemies in one hit would be boring and monotonous. If the combat segments were that quick, this game would be 10 times shorter. And if you hear that and you think, oh, well, they're using the combat to pad out the length of the game, it's artificial length, then that's just nitpicking. That's like saying gameplay pads out the length of a game. And from what I'm seeing from his gameplay, he's treating it exactly like Arkham Combat, with only basic melee attacks and dodging. And that's not how you're supposed to play the game. You have other moves at your disposal. The fun of the combat comes from combining all your different moves and spicing it up. When I was playing this game, I changed my button inputs frequently when fighting enemies to pull off different combos. Every combat scenario can be approached in so many different ways. There's so much variation, and I don't know why you're stuck spamming square. And the thing is, some people will hear this and say, oh, that's not a fair point, because at that point you have to make your own fun. Well, that's the point of the game. If you're given this many options and this many different moves, is it so unreasonable to think that you'll have to string combos together with a variety of different moves? I don't think so. Fighting games do that all the time, and that's the core of their gameplay, and I believe it's the core of this combat system as well. He also complains that the number of enemies present at once increases throughout the game. Yes, because of course it does. I mean, does it sort of create a sense of artificial difficulty? Maybe a little bit, but that's natural progression for most games. And it's compensated by the fact that you're given 4 extremely powerful AoE moves. And as you play through the game, these moves only get more powerful. These abilities can decimate a handful of enemies in an instant, or at the very least, deal some good damage to them, especially during the end game. I honestly don't know how you thought the combat was tedious, even with all of this at your disposal. He also points out that the only time you ever feel like an actual superhero is when Peter does the little symbiote surge thing for the first time. And yes, it was fun, I agree, but do you really want the whole game to be like that? Why do I even ask? Of course you do. But to be that powerful, the whole game is ridiculous, and it's used how it should be, as a temporary power boost. At that point, the game would just be too easy, and the game is already easy enough on the hardest difficulty. If you had that power all the time, then it would no longer feel powerful because it's relative. It only feels as powerful as it does because you're comparing it to the normal combat. And if you had the power all the time, it would just become the new default, and then you'd have something else to complain about. Okay, then he starts to shit on the stealth, for the strangest reasons. He says that it doesn't make sense for Spider-Man to have stealth missions, but it makes sense for Batman to have stealth missions. Again, comparing it to the Arkham games, but why does that even matter? And to avoid being called a Spider-Man dweeb, as he says, I'm not going to justify Spider-Man being stealthy with any sort of external media. But to me, this just feels natural, because it's literally just there to offer a different style of gameplay, one that's the complete antithesis of the traditional combat of this game. Why? Why does it have to be justified? It's just stealth. Even if it did have to be justified, is it really so unreasonable to think that a superhero might have to sneak into an enemy base undetected? That is so common in not even just superhero stories, just any kind of story. And also, most of the stealth in the game is optional. There's some required stealth, but the optional stealth heavily outweighs the mandatory stealth. But I can't even bring that up as a point because he doesn't like the fucking combat of the game. He says that you're de-incentivized to break stealth because you'll get into a combat scenario, which, I mean, I personally don't fucking care about because I like the combat, but he doesn't, so what can I say? And his next point is the funniest fucking complaint in the whole video. At this point in the video, I was like, there is no way this man is being serious. He has to be joking, because this shit is just too fucking funny. So he complains about a specific scenario. Let's say that you're on a perch, you're on a ledge doing perch takedowns, and you take out one enemy, and you have to take out the dude that's next to him. He complains that sometimes you have to move 3 to 4 feet to do another takedown. And dude, I don't want to say that some things are just nitpicking, because sometimes I feel like that invalidates the argument being presented. But this is just nitpicking, man. This man cannot take 2 seconds out of his life to move 3 to 4 feet. And look, maybe I also had this issue. Maybe I also had to move a whopping 3 to 4 feet to take out an enemy. But I never would have fucking noticed because it's so trivial and inconsequential that nobody would ever notice something like this unless they were trying to find something to complain about. And honestly, that's what most of his review for this game sounds like. It sounds like he went into this game like, alright, planning to dislike this one, let's see what we can complain about. And the gameplay was just too good, and he's like, fuck, I still gotta make a negative video for YouTube. And the thing is, there are valid criticisms and complaints that people have about the combat system or the gameplay in this game. And you know, sometimes I can agree with them. People have their reasonings and they make sense. But he doesn't focus on any of that. He just focuses on this stupid ass, dumb ass shit that doesn't matter. And look, I myself have complaints about the stealth, but they're not stupid. I mean, I just think the stealth is too easy, especially with the new web line. You can basically breeze through some of these stealth missions and make them super quick, which is fun at times, but I feel like it can lose some of the tension because of it. It's a little too simple, and I wish that the stealth was more restrictive, for lack of a better term. With everything in your arsenal, these stealth missions can be very, very easy. And look, I feel like those are valid complaints and criticisms, but it doesn't take away like too much of my enjoyment from the game. I still love the game. And his complaints are so much more minute, and they like ruin the experience for him, which I don't understand. How do you even live your life like that? At that point, literally everything would bother you. And then he starts to shit on the boss fights, you know, more specifically the lizard boss fights, saying that they're too repetitive and that all you do is dodge and block and attack and do the same shit. And I'm like, you know what, yeah, you're right. But that's what you do in most boss fights for most games anyway. You avoid the enemy's attacks and then you retaliate with your own attack. Like, I don't know why he's complaining about this. Like, this is the only game in history where you avoid attacks and then attack. Like, you obviously don't like this style of gameplay. Why are you playing this game? Go play some RPGs or something, dude. And it was at this point in the video where I was like, okay, he either truly believes in everything he is saying, or he's saying this to piss people off. Because he refers to Lizard as the big alligator guy with like so much animosity in his voice. He's like, oh yeah, and then there's the big alligator guy boss fight. Like, I don't know what his fucking name is. Like, I don't know his superhero name or whatever. Big alligator guy, that's what I call him. I don't care about his name. And I'm like, dude, you really can't remember a name as simple as Lizard? Really? But you can remember Dr. Connors? Like, he refers to him as Dr. Connors as well. So, I mean, it just sounds like you're saying this to piss people off. I'm not saying you are, but that's what it sounds like, dude, because this shit is ridiculous. Then he goes on to say that the only fight in the game that he actually likes is the Sandman one, which, you know, valid, but I mean, where's the consistency, man? Because that's the most repetitive boss fight in the game. If you count the boss fight on its own when you're playing as Miles, and all you do is web him up and then go up to him and hit him. That's all you do. You press R1 and square, and the rest of it isn't even a boss fight. It's just regular combat with QTE. Like, why? Where's the consistency, man? Like, this one is the most repetitive and simple one of them all. You're only saying this because of the pretty outer layer. You know, this fight is on a bigger scale than most of the other ones in the game. And then he starts to dog on the Mary Jane levels. And you know what? This is the one thing we can finally agree on. And yeah, it's pretty unrealistic that you can take out these trained mercenaries like it's nothing. But that's not even what I hate most, because, I mean, it's a fucking video game. I don't care that much about suspension of disbelief. It's not a movie, it's not a show. They're just badly designed. They kill the pacing of the game. They're way too easy, and they're not fun at all. The AI in some of these missions is so stupid, and you can breeze through them easily. They just seem more like a waste of time than anything to me. But it was at this point in the video where I noticed something he said that caught me off guard. He says that the only reason these Mary Jane levels are in the game is so Insomniac can say they included a playable female character in their game. And he says that in a very mocking tone, and I don't know what led you to believe that, because there's literally nothing pointing to that being the reasoning as to why they put these levels in the game. Nothing at all. They want to show off Mary Jane and make her a capable hero, which is a little ridiculous. And it's put there to offer downtime and slow-paced actions between big set pieces. They put her in to showcase what the world looks like to someone who's not Spider-Man, a regular human being. This is a very typical narrative choice, and it's used in a lot of media, but it does not work well here. And nowhere at all does it say that they put her in the game so they can have a playable female character in the game. That is not one of the reasons. And him saying that and the way he said it is very telling to the kind of person that he is. But I'll get into that later. Next, he starts to shit on the story, which is like, alright, man, to each their own. But he really does not care about the Spider-Man story, and he makes that very clear. He goes on to say that the pacing is bad because of the cinematics. He says there's too many cutscenes and that they shouldn't take up so much of the runtime. And I mean, this is literally just his opinion. People obviously love this format. If you really don't like it, then you just don't like it. It's not for you. But he talks about it like it's the most insufferable thing on the planet. He also has a huge problem with reformed supervillains for some reason. He makes it sound like it's all lovey-dovey or whatever, and that the supervillain and the public are the best of friends, which I don't know where you got that from. J. Jonah Jameson literally screams throughout half the game about these reformed supervillains, saying that it's bullshit and they should stay in prison, whatever. And they literally approach Mysterio's attraction with so much caution. It's very clear that not only Miles, but the public standing nearby, that they were very uneasy about a supervillain having his own attraction. And I don't know what he's talking about when he says reformed supervillains, like they're scattered all across this game. Dude, the first thing Kraven does when he gets to New York is break supervillains out of prison. They're still in prison. And again, I don't know why he makes it sound like the Spider-Man are just completely okay with this, because Miles' entire arc literally revolves around him hating Martin Lee for killing his dad. And Martin Lee claims to have been reformed, to be a changed man. He talks about them like the supervillains and the Spider-Man are now just the best of friends. And one of the few villains who's truly reformed is Tombstone, and he was less supervillain and more of a crime boss, which has happened in real life. There are reformed criminals, so that's realistic at least. Again, not saying that it's all sunshine and rainbows after that, because nobody says that. Because people still view Tombstone and they feel uneasy when they see him. Literally, tense music plays when he shows up, and the characters are like, holy shit, Tombstone, the bad guy? He's working here? Spider-Man also doesn't save the supervillains because they're the best of fucking friends. He saves them because he doesn't believe in killing people or letting people be killed. He will not stand idly by and watch people be murdered, no matter who they are. That's just his principle. But of course, if I say this, I'll get called a Marvel dweeb by this guy, even though that's literally the reason that he acts this way, and he'd probably say something like, well, that's dumb or cringe. I mean, dude, he's not perfect. Have you ever heard of a character with flaws? That's how you write a character. I mean, the amount of stories that could easily be dismissed if you just said, oh, this wouldn't have ever happened if this character didn't have X trait, is insane. I mean, Breaking Bad, for example. The whole story never would have happened if Walt just took the treatment from Elliot. But oh no, we can't have him be prideful. We can't have character traits and flaws that would make the story more interesting. We as an audience would hate that. We want our characters to agree with us in every single way. Do I agree with Spider-Man? No, not always. Some of these villains are horrible, but you don't have to. It's a flaw. And his key example for this is in the beginning when Spider-Man feels bad for Sandman after he rampaged through the whole fucking city, saying that it's bad writing, even though it's literally in character for Spider-Man to feel bad for the supervillain, because that's just who he is, man. He's got a lot of empathy for people, even the bad guys. Honestly, especially the bad guys. He wants to help them be better people. He wants to help them reform. And it's not like he's best fucking friends with them. He just wants to help them. I mean, he still locked them up. He still sends them to fucking prison. He just wants them to be better people so they don't fucking keep murdering people. And if you hear that and then you're like, oh man, I don't really agree with Spider-Man. I disagree. I think you should just kill the villains, stop them or whatever, or just keep them locked up. Don't let them fucking escape prison. Just none of this reforming bullshit. I don't agree with that. Then great. You don't agree. You don't have to, because it's a fucking character flaw, and that's how you write an interesting character. A character with fucking problems. You don't have to agree with everything that a character does. That is just unrealistic and childish. And in Spider-Man's case, his biggest strengths can be his biggest weaknesses, and that's interesting to see. You know, he loves to help people. He wants to help people. He wants to help everyone, and sometimes those people are fucking crazy psychopaths that are just not going to change, and that can cause a lot of harm and collateral damage. And that is a fucking flaw. It's not bad writing, it's a character flaw, and it's obviously intentional because it's addressed and explored in this game. In the Wraith mission, Yuri literally calls him out. She says, "Hey, how many people's lives have you cost by saving one person's life?" It's not bad writing, and by the way, the only reason I address this is because he said it was bad writing. Now, I don't really have much to add on with what he said, with the rest of what he says about the story, and I don't really want to anymore. I agree and disagree in some places, but there's one thing I realize is that he constantly talks about how tedious the combat is and how mind-numbingly easy the boss fights are and how fucking tedious they are as well. And yes, they are quite easy, but then I remembered that he was playing the game on easy mode. I mean, I'm not going to use that as a major point, but I just thought it was funny. Overall, he thinks that this game is just super corny and that Marvel and Spider-Man are just cheesy and corny. And like, yeah, I agree. Who would have thought that a comic book game would be corny? Sound like comic books themselves are corny by nature. But people think this shit is cool, man, and I'm one of those people. He goes on to say that his opinion should not affect your enjoyment of the game, but shits on Marvel fans constantly throughout the whole video. It just seems like you're sitting on your high horse. There's a sense of superiority here, and it's really fucking weird. It's very clear that you think you're better. I mean, he talks about Marvel fans like they're inferior human beings incapable of critical thought, that all they like is superheroes with big dumb action. He just presents himself as the kind of guy who thinks everything he enjoys is so much better than what everyone else is enjoying, that the things he likes are what's actually good. He just talks about these stories like they're all completely void of mature writing and storytelling because of his limited experiences with them. And yeah, some of them can be corny and cheesy, especially in recent years with the modern way that Marvel likes to write their characters and dialogue, but sometimes people just don't care. They just want to be kids, man. They recognize that it's corny, but that's the fun of it. So please don't act like you know better. You're corny as shit too, man. Half the time your complaints sound like one of my classmates from middle school. You sound just like an incel 12-year-old. Let's end this off with a question. Why did you buy this game? You hated the first game. You didn't even finish it, you hated it so much. Yet you bought the second game? With what intentions? With the expectations that your very specific problems would be fixed? Clearly the masses do not agree with you. So why would you go into this game expecting the issues that a majority of the player base did not have would be fixed? The developers were not going to address the issues that a small minority of players had. This game was clearly not made for you. You don't like Marvel, you don't like superheroes, you really don't care about any of the characters in this game. You admitted to not giving a fuck about the story, and you didn't even finish the first one. So why would you play this? Why would you even buy this? It really just seems like you played this to complain, because there's no way you thought that Insomniac would have completely changed the game to suit your needs. This game is $70 fucking dollars. That's a lot of fucking money for a game, man. So why would you spend your money on this? You knew you weren't gonna like it. It's not tailored to you. Okay, so if you clicked on this video and you only wanted to see my thoughts and opinions on the game in response to his thoughts and opinions, then you can go ahead and click off now. Go ahead, go chill out, eat some fucking cereal or something. It's alright. Because now we're going to be talking about the quote-unquote woke propaganda present in Spider-Man. Earlier, I said that the Mary Jane statement was telling to the kind of person he is, and because of that statement, I went ahead and checked out another one of his videos, and now I can confirm this dude is a fucking character. He's not a real person. He's just so hilarious. He talks about the woke propaganda plaguing Spider-Man, and it's so stupid. First off, he complains about the mission with the gay guy in it because they removed it in the Middle Eastern version of the game, and in his head, this points to the exact reason as to why they put this mission in the game, because it's woke propaganda. Yeah, let's ignore the fact that maybe they took it out because most places in the Middle East will literally kill you for being gay. And also, he says this mission shouldn't be in the game because it adds nothing to the main story. No fucking shit. It's a side mission. It's optional. You don't have to do it. And by this logic, no game should have any side missions because, oh, it's not important to the main story. But does he complain about the other side missions? Of course not. I wonder why he complains about this one specific side mission with the gay person in it. I fucking wonder. If you really have a problem with LGBTQ people just being present in media, then you're gonna struggle to enjoy a lot of things. This shit is just too funny, man. You cannot make this shit up. He talks about more woke propaganda in the game, but I won't even get into it. It's so stupid. This is literally so dumb. Like, I don't know why he cares about it so much. It doesn't matter. It's one gay dude in this, like, fucking 12-hour game, and you don't even have to do the mission. Why does he care so much? This is so immature and childish. This man is 12. I swear to God, this man is 12. He says that these game developers put their political views, which they're not fucking political, into their games because they want more money. They do it only for the money. Wow. Wow, who would have fucking guessed that a company that relies on making money from a game would put things in said game to appeal to a bigger audience, leading to more sales? You did not make some big, profound statement saying this, dude. I know you thought you did, but you did not. And you haven't pointed out anything leftists don't already know. Do you really think people are this fucking stupid? So stupid that they won't notice shit like this? No, of course not. They just don't fucking care. Most people with leftist ideologies don't really have room to care. They just think it's cool to see representation for someone of their group. For a gay person, when they're playing this game, it's cool to see that side mission, and it can mean a lot to a lot of people. It's like when the remake for The Little Mermaid was announced, and you see these sweet videos of little black girls watching the movie saying, "Oh my god, she's just like me." That shit warms your fucking heart, man. Who cares why the company did it? Because every single thing that a company puts into a piece of media is made to make them money. No fucking shit. We know that. You're not blowing anyone's mind by saying that, dude. But positive representation is good and clearly has a very positive effect, especially in younger audiences. So I ask again, why? Why do you care so much? This isn't about you. This is not for you. I truly cannot believe it bothers you this much to see minorities being represented in a piece of media. This conversation does not concern you. You are not a minority, so stop speaking on it like you have the right, because you don't. One funny thing I'd like to add is that I don't actually know if he's a white heterosexual male. I just had to assume, so I could add that little hard-ass ending in there. And maybe my assumption is wrong, you know? But from what I saw, he was very unsupportive of BLM. He fucking hates gay people, obviously. Or at the very least, he doesn't want them in his media. So I'm just gonna assume that he's a white heterosexual male. And if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, and I'll fucking apologize. Also, I just realized my channel's not doing me any justice, man. Most of the videos I've made are about Marvel IPs. So I really do look like a Marvel dweeb, especially to this dude. But I mean, I don't fucking care, man. I like that shit. What are you gonna do? Shit on me? Alright, I'm still gonna fucking like it. Go be fucking sappy and enjoy whatever you like. Alright, there we go. There it is. That's the end. How fantastic. If you liked it, then fucking awesome. Thank you. If you didn't like it, you probably agreed with him. But man, that was a fucking roller coaster. Everything he said was just so ridiculous. That dude is so funny. He is such a fucking character, man. I really didn't take much of what he said seriously, but we literally disagreed on everything. And don't take much of what I say seriously either. You know, I was just bored and I wanted to make a video about Spider-Man. And then I saw his video and I was like, oh shit, I guess I'll talk about that. But yes, that's the end of the video. If you liked it, leave a like. If you didn't, I'm so sorry. Goodbye.